if you don't need money today, you may at some point. And the reality of it is, if you can generate income or supplement income and ultimately either save it or reduce how quickly you need to start taking your retirement, it can have a dramatic impact on your ultimate financial security. Today, we're diving into 5 of my favorite ways to generate extra income.
Hi, I'm Annette Bau, host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast and founder of the Millionaire Insider. My mission is to help you simplify the money game so you can create a financially secure and fulfilled life without having to have a PhD or spend countless hours on your finances. You're going to learn how to think like a millionaire, stop worrying about money and wondering if your financial house is truly in order, and instead spend your time doing what you love. With over 3 decades advising 7, 8, and even 9-figure millionaires, and now joining that elite group, I'm in a unique position to help you make the best financial choices so you can create a secure financial future and retirement you love. This is the Wealth Inside and Out podcast.
For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/141. Today's free resource is our residual income guide. You can go to themillionaireinsider.com/RIG. The ultimate goal, my friend, is to create residual and passive income. Then you can do what you want, when you want, and with whom. That is the ultimate goal. Today, we're talking about side hustles because that's kind of what you have to do if you don't have enough residual or passive income. But the ultimate goal is to get that income that's coming in every single month. That's why I don't have to work, is because I have enough residual income to cover my expenses. And that's where I want you to get. Again, you can access this guide at themillionaireinsider.com/RIG. It's going to show you the insight and give you different options so you can start making informed decisions, create a plan, and ultimately achieve your financial goals. MillionaireSeries.com copyrights all materials and intellectual property. This information is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to replace any advisor or specialist or to provide you any investment, financial, tax, retirement planning, or healthcare advice. By accessing this content, you agree to hold MillionaireSeries.com and its affiliates harmless for results achieved or not achieved. A side hustle can allow you to create connections, provide value, and generate additional income. So sit back and start taking notes. Today's episode may provide you valuable insight to really help you not only today, but in the future. The ultimate goal in life is to feel how you want to feel. That's the most important thing, that you've got the feeling you want. And for many women, it's security, right? You want to feel that you don't have to worry about money. You want to feel that you're going to be okay. This requires a plan so that you can ensure you do have a financially secure tomorrow. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are okay today that may not be tomorrow. And our entire goal is to ensure you're okay today and tomorrow. If you don't need a side hustle, say currently, but you are considering or planning to retire, you may find out, as many do, that retirement is not all it's cracked up to be, meaning you're miserable. I just spoke with a woman yesterday who retired in 2019. And after 3 years, her and her husband said, "You're much better at working than you are staying at home." Regardless of your stage in life, whether you're in the accumulation, the pre-retirement, or you're actually retired, additional income can be so beneficial to your long-term plan. So I began creating income early in my life. I literally started babysitting at 4. I know that sounds crazy. It's terrifying, and it was. To this day, I'm thinking, oh my God, I cannot believe it. Because what I would do, so my neighbor, we lived in Sundance, Wyoming, and my neighbor would have to go to the laundromat. So she said, you can just come over and stay with the kids while they're napping. Well, as soon as she would leave, I wanted to wake up the kids. I wanted to hold them. I wanted to hold that baby. Oh my gosh, I just think back on it. My mom would look out our window and see me carrying the baby in one hand and having the toddler in the other and about have a heart attack. It's terrifying. That's where the entrepreneurial spirit began. I then started making yarn on hangers, and to this day, I love them. They're my favorite hanger. Basically, you have to have 2 hangers that match, and you have yarn, and you get the yarn wrapped around them. They are just awesome for pants. They never break. They are just the absolute best. They just are very time consuming. I would sell those. I would also house sit. And then when I got old enough, I would waitress. And it's just amazing when I think back on I started with a side hustle very early in life. And I encourage you to consider it because if you look at any study, if you can delay taking your money or reduce the amount you're taking from your portfolio, it has a dramatic impact on your long term financial stability and really you're financially secure tomorrow. So consider it, review it, and if you're inclined to, get a side hustle. Now, one of the things I want you to think about as far as a side hustle is you don't have to be working 24/7 to create income. You just have to have the right plan. Now, if you need cash, then a time for money model, meaning like a part time job, maybe at a department store or working for somebody as a virtual assistant, may be a better option. But if you don't need money, then you can choose a path that may require a little bit more upfront money or some additional training. I want to encourage you not to spend the money you don't have. I've had students who've needed extra cash and they've ended up spending thousands of dollars to never make a dime. Meaning, I met them and I'm like, okay, what have you been doing? Oh, well, I joined this group. Okay. And some of them have been MLMs, which I'm completely pro MLMs as long as you do your research and you have some path to make money. When you go and pay a bunch of upfront money, never to make money, that's a problem. All right, so let's talk for 1 minute about why a side hustle is important after 50. The retirement landscape has changed dramatically. Most people can't rely on company pensions, right? They're gone. And Social Security alone isn't enough money. And that also has issues. It's going to go bankrupt. It was 2034. Then I've heard 2032. Then I've even heard 2030. The reality of it is the funding of it. And no one's really talking about what's going to happen. So we've got to be aware of that. Considering that 40 to 50% of people's sole income is Social Security is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I mean, how does a person live on it? The average check is $1,900 a month. Boy, it's just beyond my comprehension. I recently spoke with a gentleman who is getting $500 a month and he basically has no money. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is he going to do? It's just concerning. And so then I thought, well, maybe he's living with other family members. He's got his wife. He's not. Those are things that are unfortunately our reality, and it's not getting better. Meaning, the latest report is that the only people spending money are the top 10% who are making a bunch of money in the stock market. Everyone else is struggling to pay for their groceries. And so, again, these are just things we've got to be aware of. We can't get into a state of inertia or fear, but we've got to be aware and we've got to make sure we're creating a plan for our future. So let's look at why diversifying income streams is so important. The first thing is it can replace or supplement your current paycheck if you have one. It can provide you options and the ability to quit your job if it becomes too stressful or you just no longer want to do it. It allows you to create a purpose and a passion in your post-career life, which many people dream of. In fact, I was just talking to this young girl last night at my club. In fact, if you're listening, hi. But she was talking about what her passion is. When she started talking about it, she got so excited. And it's really cool. She wants to do comedy and bring in some health and wealth in there. And I said, what a great concept, because money and health can be really intimidating for people. And having a little humor there is always a good thing. It allows you to protect against inflation as well as market volatility. So that if the market's down and you're retired, you don't have to take as much money out of your retirement account. And it also allows you to delay taking money, meaning even starting to take it. So there are a lot of benefits. Now, one of the tips I want to give you is just that the secret to a side hustle is you've got to create a plan and you also need a strategy. The goal isn't to do more. It's to create that plan that allows you to spend your time doing what you love and at the same time feel financially confident and create financial security for your tomorrow. So let's look at how you choose the right side hustle, right? Because that's such a critical step. I want you to start by asking a few questions. What am I really good at? Or what am I just good at? Maybe not really good, just good at. What do people often ask me for help with? That's a great one. What would be fun or fulfilling to do? I want you to just start with one. The goal is progress, not perfection. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle or somebody else's end. Oh, I should have bought that stock. By the time you're hearing about some stock you should buy, it's oftentimes too late. But so many people are chasing what other people are already doing or what other people have already created. Let's dive into some of my favorite side hustles. Now, there's a lot of side hustles, but what I wanted to do is ones that can help you. You already had maybe are in a successful career. You are at a point in your life where you've got knowledge and now you're ready to help other people. Now, some of them follow that path. Other ones just follow a path that I think makes sense and can even be fun. So you've got to decide. And if these ones don't work for you, then go find ones that do. It's not a right or wrong as long as you have a plan and that this works in your strategy. So the first one is freelance consulting or coaching. This is especially great for professionals that are retiring from law, finance, education, or even HR. There are so many opportunities. You just have to know your expertise, your passion, and then start looking at different options that will serve you. You can charge a premium as far as your fee, and they offer flexible hours, meaning you can work part-time and the hours can meet your schedule versus somebody saying you have to be here at 8 and leave at 5. You can use your expertise and your relationships that you have spent so much time creating. And while it would require more work, you can have unlimited potential. Now, some of you may not want that because you're saying, I only want a finite amount of hours. But for some of you, you say, oh, that sounds really exciting. I know several 6 and 7-figure business coaches, and it does require work, but it provides so much more control over your schedule, and it gives you the ability to use the talents you've spent so many years creating. So if that one feeds your soul, I encourage you to go for it. I think it just is so fun, even though I do more financial consulting. Some of those things are so rewarding and there's such a need for it. So you just got to look at the options and see what works for you. All right, the second one is to create a digital product or course, or even be an affiliate and sell someone else's. But let's talk about what you can do. The first thing you can do is teach what you already know. There's several platforms that allow you to put your expertise on those platforms, such as Kajabi, Teachable, and I'm sure there are a ton more, and I'm sure a lot more will come around, and some may even be better, and they may replace these. But the bottom line is there's always going to be platforms where you can teach your expertise. It can offer you evergreen income with upfront work. One of the best advantages of this one is that you can create the work, so you do it upfront, and then you continue to earn income. Now, you do have to continue marketing it, but there is definite potential there. So, examples may be ones where you're going to help boomers with budgeting, or you're going to provide gardening tips or basic legal advice, or maybe even mind shifts that people need pre-retirement. The options are endless. I knew a woman who was making like almost 7 figures teaching rose gardening. Another one was making over $500,000 teaching knitting. And it was really interesting because there was another one, and I think she was in that ballpark, but she was teaching people how to knit and using the fur of their animals. I thought that was a little weird. Like it freaked me out a little bit. But obviously the bottom line is you got to do the research, find out what works, find out what there's a market for, and then just go for it. Always do your research though. Always, always. An online course can be expensive, so you got to be mindful of your earnings and expenses. And if that's not your jam, you've got to make it your jam. You've got to know what's coming in from the different sources and what the expenses are in the different categories. You need to do the research to determine who you want to serve. Who is that ideal avatar? Like my ideal avatar has changed somewhat, but it's really somebody that's about 50 to 65, maybe 70, who really is serious about making sure they have a financially secure tomorrow so they can love their life today and tomorrow. Get clear on that, because when you're clear on that, then you know who you can serve and who you don't choose to serve. You want to interview your ideal prospect to determine what they want and what they'll pay for. A lot of people want to lose weight in this country, and yet a lot of people won't pay for it. A lot of people want to have a financially secure tomorrow, but they're not willing to do the work or maybe even pay to make sure it happens. So you got to be clear on that. I encourage you to create one funnel. That's just a flow of when somebody comes into your life and then where they go from there. The touches you give them and ultimately what you want them to do. If you want them to buy your course, you want to work with them one-on-one, but you want to have one funnel and you want to make it profitable. And then you want to rinse and repeat. That is a billion-dollar nugget. In fact, if I would have known that 20 years ago when I started my mastermind for advisors, I would have probably tripled what I made. I mean, I did over 2 million in that business, maybe a little 2.5 million, but boy, I did it completely wrong. Literally everything I did in that was wrong. I ended up doing it because I was kind of just pushed into it. I would just say, or pulled into it. And I'm glad I did it. But what I've realized is the fact that I needed a break from financial advising, solely doing that because I'd done it for so long at such a high level. And now I can say that I'm back in the game of advising people. I'm enjoying it so much more. And I think it was just, I needed that break. And now I just see such impact I've made on people's lives, which is so rewarding. I want you to get there. I want you to find that passion where you wake up in the morning and you're excited to get at it. Another idea tied to this is to sell or flip items online. Like there's eBay, there's Etsy, Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people make really good money doing that. Consider focusing in on unique, vintage, or specialty items. There's a lot of money on there. Even oversized clothing. One of the bookkeepers I used years ago, she had an online business where she sold clothes for obese individuals because there's no options. And she had the cutest clothes. And she said it's so unfortunate because a lot of these women are really large and everything that they can buy looks like a tent. It has no color in it. And I was so impressed. I thought, what a great concept. This option would be ideal if you're organized and detail oriented. You've got to make sure you're paying attention to the details. And some people are more detail oriented than others. If you're not, then you've got to have the revenue to hire somebody who is. And then you can delegate, but don't abdicate. It's huge, unless you want a silent partner that's stealing money from you. I've seen so many cases like that where somebody just goes to sleep at the wheel and the next thing they know, they have an employee stealing from them. So you got to be aware of that. All right, the third one, affiliate and referral marketing, which we covered just a touch above, but I want to just dive into a couple other concepts. And it's got a component to digital and course marketing, but this is where you're finding products you love and then you're going to get paid to recommend or sell them. It might be a financial tool, it might be a wellness product or a book. Ideally, you want it to be a course where you're going to make good money, meaning somebody's charging $5,000 and if you refer them, you get $2,500. That's ideal. Now, you got to be really careful because some people will do it where you get paid sometimes and you don't others. So you got to do your research, meaning they'll allow affiliates, say, in their fall offering, but then they don't allow affiliates in their spring offering. So if you recommend somebody that doesn't buy in the fall but buys in the spring, you don't get paid. Be aware of that. Ask those questions up front so there's no surprises. If you decide to go down this venue, you can create a YouTube channel or start blogging or even create a podcast on that topic so that you are building an audience and you can then connect with them via an email list, provide value, provide impact. And then when you make a recommendation, a person's going to be a lot more likely to sign up. That can be a really good opportunity. It can also be a really good option for you to find affiliate partners that will refer to your program. So it can go both ways. You can make money at this, a lot of money. And part of it is that venue. The other part of it is really more fun. So the first thing is I'm going to talk about kind of being like a personal assistant or a house sitter. I was at a conference and I met this woman whose mother is basically a house sitter and a personal assistant to affluent and wealthy people. So she'll run errands, gets the house ready when they're going to come into town. She makes over 6 figures. Now, this was the thing. I was so fascinated by it. I'm asking like 10,000 questions. She actually works for a company. She's not direct. Now, this is the crazy part. So she's making over 6 figures. Imagine what that company is making. But she stays at They're home sometimes when they travel. She does everything they need done. And like if they have an odd job they need or they need groceries when they get into town. Now, this was the thing that I thought was really interesting that this person shared with me. They give big bonuses at Christmas. What her mom found out from one of the clients is that they had given the bonus to the company and the company did not give it to her. So if you do that, even if you do it, say, with a company, you might let them know that, hey, if you want me to get this bonus, you need to give it to me. And what I would recommend is trying to work directly with the client. Get one client and then they'll refer you to somebody else and so on. That's the best way to get into an affluent market is referrals. But you got to be organized and responsible. This could be ideal to supplement your retirement income. And I mean, how fun. I think that would be so fun, especially if you had a really cool group of people you're working with. Like if you're working with me, I'd be really cool to work with. I don't need that right now, but who knows? Maybe someday I will. So now let's talk about if you have a love for animals. I just think this is such an awesome job. And I know because we hire them. Now, one of our dogs has passed, so it's easier to handle one dog. But when we had two and we'd travel, it just was easier having somebody help us. And especially if we'd all go, we needed it. But basically, you feed the dog or cat, I guess, twice a day. You're going to walk them once or twice a day. And then some people want you to sleep at the house. Other people let you sleep at your house. And you earn between probably at the low end, maybe 50, high end, 150. Think of that. At $75 a night, 10 nights is $750 a month. If you work 10 nights per month and you make 150, you're going to make 1,500 per month. That is not bad. And many people love animals. They would do it for free. So just be aware that many of these people, their pets are like their kids. And so you got to treat them with kid gloves and be really, really attentive and make sure those animals love you to death. And then number 5 is all about real estate. It can be about property and or even auto income. So let's dive into this. All right, renting out a room. Maybe you have a guest house or a vacation home and you can rent it out through Airbnb or VRBO. We rent out our ocean condo because we don't go down there a lot. I've only been down there once in the last 3 years. I want to go down there more, but it's a 3.5-hour drive as compared to our cabin's only a 2-hour drive. So as long as we are not using it a lot, we'll rent it out. As far as my cabin goes that I've owned for 20 some years, never. I just don't want people staying there. You got to decide. Yeah, we've been offered a lot of money to rent out our cabin. It's to die for. I just don't want people staying there. So again, obviously if I needed money, I would. That's a great way to make money. Now, I personally would get a driver's license and run a background and credit search if you're doing it yourself. We have a company that does it, but I would encourage you to be extra careful, especially if you live alone. You want to just make sure you are really comfortable with who would be staying with you. Now, long-term rental properties can provide steady monthly cash flow. And so you may just rent it out long-term. One of my friends owns a place out of state. Now they are renting it out on a long-term basis because they just didn't want to deal with the Airbnb and the cleaning and all that. So there are a lot of options that you have available. One of the things that people also can make serious money in is like real estate photography, staging homes. I mean, one of my daughter's friends just was paid like $30,000 to stage a home, plus the cost of furniture and things. And then property management can also be very lucrative. Now, you could even do property management where you only have a few properties as compared to being really large. And some people really like that because they want to know who is handling their property. Now, if you own a car, you could rent it out on a part-time basis. There are third parties that are willing to do that and act as the intermediary. Now, this is not one of my favorite options, but I know people who have used it to lease cars and have a great experience. And some of the most prominent names, again, do your own research, but Turo's one, Get Around, High Car, available by Allstate. So you got to look into those. And, by the time you listen to this, there's probably more, and some may have even changed. But the point being is if that's something that could work for you, then consider it. I don't know. That one is not my favorite one. I just know people have made money at it. And I also know people that have used it love it. So make your own judgment call on that one. The bottom line is my favorite side hustle is anyone that generates passive and residual income and that you enjoy. As you continue to grow your nest egg, I want you to focus on income streams that will create ongoing free money, meaning money that comes in every month. So you don't need a side hustle. That's the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is really a guaranteed income annuity, but that requires a lump sum. Now, why do I love guaranteed income annuities more than anything? Is because they act differently. They are guaranteed and they give you X amount of dollars for the rest of your life. So you don't have to worry about what the stock market does, what the real estate market does, what the bond market does, what interest rates do. You've got X amount every single month coming in. It's like your own personal pension or private pension. Companies used to do it. Now you have to do it. Some other options are dividend stocks. You own shares in an established company and they pay you out a yield every month. And they range from 2 to 5% currently. These are publicly traded companies that own or manage real estate and pay out about 90% of the taxable income as dividends. And the current yield is about 4 to 8%. Again, read the disclosure. And before you create any plan, consult with a qualified advisor. You can go to themillionaireinsider.com/support to access support. Bonds and fixed income. You can get loans from the government or corporations with fixed interest payments. Now, a lot of you are saying, I'm not giving the government my money. I get it. Right now, I get the concern. Some of you are going, there's no way I would right now invest money in the government. And I know since we got a downgrade of Moody's and other countries are selling off our treasuries, which are supposed to be risk-free, it does give you room for pause. Again, you got to figure out what works for you, but those current yields are 3 to 6%. Peer-to-peer lending and private credit. Now, this can be very risky, so you got to do your research and proceed with caution. Consult with a qualified advisor before investing in anything. But those current yields can be anywhere from 6 up to probably 20%. I mean, when I did my research, it said 6 to 12%, but I know of people who have gotten 14 to 20%. Again, it's high risk, so you got to be aware of that. And then real estate rentals. You buy a property, you rent it out, and obviously the yield's going to depend on a lot of factors. There's closed-end funds, and these are funds or business development companies that invest in loans, bonds, private firms. And those yields currently are between about 8 and 12%, but they often lack liquidity, meaning you can't sell them. They're not an open market like a open-end mutual fund. So you got to be aware of it. You got to do your research. And again, always consult with a qualified advisor. So one of the things I just want to really caution you on anything you do is you've got to make sure that your investment and retirement plan is coordinated with a tax plan. A tax plan can save you tens of thousands of dollars a year. And I see so many times where people have no tax plan. Don't let that be you. Now, again, if you don't have enough residual or passive income to replace your paycheck or to guarantee you're not going to run out of money, I encourage you to download our free residual income guide. You can go to themillionaireinsider.com/RIG. In closing, I want you to just start small and start building some momentum. The reality of it is that you've got probably more knowledge than you give yourself credit for. You could start spending a few hours a week on creating something so that you can supplement either your current paycheck, delay or defer your retirement, or reduce the amount of money you're taking out of your retirement. So I really encourage you to do something sooner rather than later. Let's recap on 5 profitable side hustles I love. The first, freelance consulting or coaching. Oh, I just love that. And I think that just for many of you that are professionals that have expertise, it's just a perfect option. Digital products or courses. Again, if you have expertise, that's a great way to create something and then continue to generate income from it. Affiliate or referral marketing, either making money from someone else's products or getting someone else to sell your product. house or animal sitting. Just think that's like sounds like a fun job. And then real estate, including both property or auto income, meaning leasing out your home or a second home, renting a room, or maybe you're actually doing property management or you're renting out your car. Again, you've got to look at what options work for you. Start by focusing in on your plan and why you need the extra money. The goal is not a nonstop hustle. It's to ensure that when you do choose something, it's working to create your ultimate goal. You want to choose a side hustle that fits your lifestyle and schedule, leverages your skills you already have, and adds enjoyment and meaning to your life. Small, consistent steps can lead to a significant income over time because if you accumulate it and you save it and you invest it, it can be a really smart move. The last thing I want to leave you with is I want you to think about the long-term benefits, having more choices, having more financial freedom, less dependence on just one income source. Anything that you can do to take one step in that direction is going to be so much better. So if you think about the ultimate goal in all of this, you want more income because that creates more freedom and it gives you more peace of mind and it ensures you're okay today as well as that you are also creating a secure financial tomorrow, which is the ultimate goal. As you move forward, I want you to just start considering options. If one of these 5 resonated with you, then go for it. If not, then just start thinking about things you can do, being open to it, asking the universe to send you opportunities, meditate on it, look for gaps where there is a need for something, and then identify those gaps that you would love to do or serve. That, my friend, is the key. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Annette Ba'u. All international copyrights are reserved. Bye for now.